Alrighty, it is time to talk about Fury. And a lot of people have been saying many things about Fury. They've been saying, oh, well, Arms is so good, Fury's dead in the streets, it has no value, it's not really good, there's nothing really going on. Fury, L. Well, read 'em and weep, boys. The top simming single target Spec 4 warrior is Fury. However, caveat, this is pure single target, and obviously in the Raid and Mythic Plus, Arms is looking to outperform significantly through its 2-target and incidental AoE. Fury has always had the problem where it can do decent AoE while doing decent single target, so I think it's not going to be an unviable spec, but Fury's real issue is going to come down to its 2-target viability. And even though Thane is going to be decent on 2-target, I don't really think Thane is going to be that enjoyable to play, which we'll get into. As well as, I think Slayer is just the more enjoyable spec to play. Now, let's talk about Slayer and some of the changes they've made and how the spec is going to play. They have buffed Raging Blow, and one of the other things, I guess, before I talk about Raging Blow is Slayer specifically, as a spec, is very odd, where the button you want to press is entirely dictated not by anything the spec itself does, or the hero talent does, but entirely by tuning. For the past couple seasons, we've been wanting to hit Bloodthirst over and over and over again. Bloodthirst used to proc Reap the Storm, it doesn't anymore. Bloodthirst used to do way more damage, it doesn't anymore. So we're not even taking the Bloodthirst talents. However, we are back to my preferred playstyle of Slayer, which is Raging Blow. Raging Blow is buffed enough, and they've made some changes which seem weird at first, but are actually really good, to talents like Hack and Slash, where it has a 75% chance to refund a charge of Raging Blow and increase the net damage of your next Raging Blow. That can be stacked on top of things like Opportunist and Critical Thinking to really have a very high damage crushing blow in your cooldown window. Although you might think about, well, what about our tier set? Our tier set wants us to press Bloodthirst to get an increased critical strike damage bonus, or critical strike bonus, from Recklessness, so our crit's higher and we're doing things the way we want, right? So how does that happen? Well, Slayer's got something built in to fix that. Unhinged. Whenever you Blade Storm, you are casting... you're just casting Bloodthirst, and that will sacrifice is the wrong word. And that will work for your tier set, meaning you don't have to press Bloodthirst at all unless everything else is on cooldown. They have also made, instead of Improved Whirlwind, adding the Rend effect of Talented, now there is simply a Storm of Blood talent, so even if you do not have Improved Whirlwind spec, Whirlwind will apply Rend to all targets within whatever yards, right? Whatever you're hitting. And it does work with Thunderclap as well for Mountain Bane, so that's nice and good. But speaking just of Slayer, it's just going to look like this for single target. It is very straightforward, very simple. I think its single target is very fun. And it is my preferred playstyle, right? So go in, pop our CDs, we do our little spin. And simply, we're just, every other global, we're hitting Rampage, right? If we have stacks of Sudden Death, we're hitting Sudden Death. Otherwise, it's just back and forth, Rampage and Crushing Blow, whatever. One other thing to note is that they did buff the amount of total stacks that Frenzy can have. So currently... or previously, Frenzy could only stack up to 4 times. Now, you'll notice during that phase, I was at 5 to 6 stacks fairly regularly, while also alternating between Rampage and either Execute or Raging Blow the whole time. So we do have some extra incidental haste from Frenzy. This also, by increasing its stack count, gets us away from the asynchronous bug that we were dealing with in Executioner for Arms, which I talked about in the Arms video, but essentially, if you were at max stacks, you could lose more stacks than you gained. It didn't really matter that much for Fury, because you're hitting Rampage enough that it didn't affect us as much. but having a higher cap on Frenzy makes our cooldown windows feel even faster. My gear is not even built necessarily for Fury, it's just the stuff I have on for testing, so it is unoptimized, just random stuff I have equipped, right? So there's certainly a better gameplay feel for Fury that you're going to have going into the season, because I'm still wearing, like, random crit or, like, random pure haste or mastery stuff, so... I do think Fury will perform just fine, but it is probably going to be overshadowed by ARMS in general for most content. Just not necessarily because its numbers are bad, but just design-wise, it's not really fitting the bill. However, like I said, its single target is something that is going to be very valuable, and even valuable in, let's say, multi-target or Mythic Plus scenarios. One of the other things that they did change as well is Rampaging Ruins. It was previously a never-picked talent. The reason for this is it replaced your Rampage with a new ability called Rampaging Ruin, which just removed all of your priority damage and did some more overall AoE, which priority damage is really important, right? And it was also making people make macros to where they would cancel Improved Whirlwind to try and use it, which is simply bad, dumb, and stupid. Now, Rampaging Ruin, just if you have Improved Whirlwind active, whenever you rampage, it is just going to do a slam that does additional AoE damage. You don't have to think about it. If Improved Whirlwind is available, it will always work. It is also gated behind Improved Whirlwind, so you can't just randomly take this and also not take Improved Whirlwind and just have a dead talent in your tree, which is nice. But it is looking to be fairly solid. Talking between either Thane or Fury. Slayer Fury is going to have way more single target. Thane's going to have more AoE. So you can kind of pick your poison there. If you really want to be a Fury diehard and just still play only Fury. I think Fury is going to definitely be pretty far behind ARMS' performance in almost all the content types this season, though. Just because of how things are designed and the couple quality of life changes that ARMS got make it feel way better and also make its AoE tax way less compared to previous seasons where, yeah, well, you could play ARMS and do big overall, but Fury would still really be the single target king. Now with the changes ARMS got, it does not have nearly as bad of an AoE tax, making it way better for all form, or I wouldn't say way better, but it makes it play better in most forms of content, whereas Fury is now kind of in a weird spot where it just kind of does damage all the time. It doesn't really have a specific niche. Its single target is pretty good. It's going back to Raging Blow, I think, is really great. Honestly, what I really want is them to bring back the Mana Forge Omega tier set and make it and just put it in the hero talent somewhere or even in the tree. Like, you could replace, I don't know, like Meat Cleaver or something, where, or like change Carving Blades into the talent where if you Raging Blowed or Bloodthirsted within multiple targets, you would have a chance to just proc a Reap the Storm, right? I think that would play really well. Work with how Slayer really feels, how you're supposed to really just be chunking down and be like a true whirlwind of steel where you're just chomping and chunking and just killing everything around you in a literal meat cleaver of frenzy. Aha, right? That was terrible. But that's the way I've really envisioned Warrior, and I do think Fury has kind of fallen behind in terms of AoE design, where it's okay, but in terms of really being good in like a Mythic Plus scenario, it still is going to need a little more. One thing that is added, however, for, I don't know if it is Mountain Thane specifically, or this could also be for Slayer, is a shout out to Warrior Sari. Also shout out to guys like Big Bull, whose name is Nevo DK, Fishy, Wildlife. Like, there's a lot of guys that have put in a ton of effort making sims, changing the APLs, rewriting different things, and have put a lot of work that I am essentially am piggybacking off of. So they are the real heroes here. I am just stupid YouTube man that speaks to the camera about stuff I like, being Warrior, right? But you'll notice here that the optimal setup for Thane, at least, is that you avatar, use a Thunder Blast, and then next global wreck into Rampage. Desynchronizing your avatar in Recklessness for a DPS gain. Ugh, disgusting. Vile and disgusting. I don't even want to look at... Get it off my screen. I don't even want to look at it anymore. That's for, like, upper end min-maxing. I don't know how much damage you actually gain from that, but... Ugh. I don't even want to think about it. That is disgusting to consider. Now, we do have to get into Thane, and Thane does have an inherent, like, straight-up problem that Slayer does not have to deal with and Arms don't have to deal with, where Thane does not want to press Raging Blow, right? Thane just doesn't want to press Raging Blow because there are so many other better buttons to press, right? You want to press Thunderclap, you want to press Thunder Blast, you want to BT to get more Thunder Blast, you're rampaging because you have so much rage in your cooldown windows, right? So a lot of the time in AoE situations, you're hitting Thunderclap or Bloodthirst or Rampage and that kind of thing, and you're not really hitting Raging Blow much. And especially in cooldowns, you have the resources that you don't want to be hitting Raging Blow. But because of the tier set, you want to hit Raging... It wants you to hit Raging Blow because it incentivizes you by giving you an additional 6-second duration on your Recklessness by hitting 3 Raging Blows during your Recklessness CD. So it's something that you want to do, but it is also something that doesn't feel good to do because it's not one of your primary buttons that you want to press. Thane's kind of working against itself here, where if they added that Thunderclap could extend the duration of your Recklessness, I think it would work seamlessly and feel great and not be nearly as big of a problem. But it simply, even with the buffs, you're going to be wanting to prioritize Bloodthirst as Mountain Thane just because that's how the spec works. And yeah, Raging Blows are there, and you're probably going to be hitting Raging Blow over using Thunderclap as a filler, because we are taking more Raging Blow-centric talents like Hack and Slash and that kind of thing. We're dropping really our Execute talents here to be able to pick these things up. So you're still going to be pressing Raging Blow, but it kind of goes against what the spec really does, and especially goes against kind of how you're playing the spec in your cooldown window. Because if you are in an AoE situation, which if you're playing Thane, you're going to be playing it in AoE, right? You're going to want to hit T-Clap, you're not going to want to hit Raging Blow. So it is possible that, well, you're going to have to sacrifice, and it is going to feel really weird being in an AoE situation and hitting Raging Blow over something like T-Clap when it's available, especially considering that they do things like T-Clap's cooldown is reduced by 50% through things like Storm Surge. It feels counterintuitive to how the spec wants to play. So I think if they added Thunderclap just for Thane in that on the tier, it would change literally nothing and just make the spec feel better to play, and you don't have to think about it or consider it or worry about it in your cooldown window. And it would make it nicer. But that's the thing that's kind of really fighting against Mountain Thane currently, is kind of dealing with the fact that our tier set's actually pretty good, but to activate it, you want to do stuff you don't actually want to do as Thane. And like I said before, Slayer doesn't want to press Bloodthirst at all. We barely take any Bloodthirst talents. However, we don't have to deal with that or think about that because we have Unhinged casting Bloodthirst for us, and because we do not have the increased Slayer Strike generation that Arms got, so we're still only at 15%, you don't really send Bladestorm on cooldown. You still hold it for your cooldown windows because they are fairly short, because you are spending a lot of rage as Fury compared to Arms, really. But anyway, Arms is not nearly as dead as people say it is. I do think that it will perform okay. I think that if people are really diehards on the spec, even if you want to go for something like Cutting Edge, you're still going to be able to pump single target on the boss. You'll do some incidental AoE. There are probably still fights that might be decent for Fury, but I do think that realistically, Arms is really going to have the edge this season, and it's been a while since Arms has had the edge, and most people that only really want to play Fury are probably not going to be too happy about that, but it might be a great time to try out arms because I think it's in the best spot it's been in a long time, and I really enjoy playing. So I don't mind arms being the go-to. However, once again, Fury is certainly nowhere near as dead as people say. I just do think that based on its actual like kit and design, it is simply falling behind design-wise things like Slayer arms, which did get a couple quality of life changes that really, really, really make the spec that much more enjoyable to play and that much more effective in all types of content. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I will put all of these builds in the description. But I will say once again that because I believe arms is really going to be the go-to, that is where my focus is primarily going to be. I will probably do some incidental messing around with Fury on some things. Maybe if it looks good here or there, I'll probably mess with it, but I main Warrior, and I do chase the meta on the spec itself. So like if Fury arms is better, even if, like, let's say Warrior is bad, if Fury is better, I'm playing Fury, and I'm interested in Fury, and I'm talking about Fury and looking at stuff, whereas more so because arms is looking to really be its time to shine, I'm mainly going to be focusing on arms stuff, even though there are definitely people that really, really, really just prefer Fury. But I don't think you're necessarily going to be eating bad, especially with some of the changes that we've received here. The Rampaging Rune change is kind of funny, though, because it's just another talent point that keeps you away from your defensive, which is quite silly. However, I do think that you will be completely fine. The only time you're probably really going to face any kind of animosity, which is the main problem with doing stuff outside of a guild setting, is in Mythic Plus and in LFG for raids, that kind of thing, where people are going to go, well, why aren't you playing the good thing when you're just trying to play what you want? So it's going to kind of, I feel like it's going to have that kind of caveat. But who knows? Maybe they nerf arms into the ground and somehow we're right back to Fury again. They could patch it. You never know. But I hope you play what you want to play and enjoy your stuff. And I will talk to you or see you when I see you. Hope y'all enjoyed the patch. Bye-bye. You just got a Discord ping, so I didn't go do not disturb on Discord. So you just got pinged. Get owned.